Hi everyone, this is one of the episodes from my India Diaries series, and as you can tell I am back home again. But at the start of this year I went on the most amazing 2-week textiles tour to Gujarat in India. And before I go and show you one of the parts of the tour, I just want to give a bit of an overview of what I was doing there, who I went with, and what these videos are all about. Now this little section is going to repeat on every video, so if you're watching the whole series, just skip to the end of this bit to get into that particular episode. But let me just give a bit of context. So I went on this textiles tour with a company that's run by a wonderful woman called Sian, and it's called South Asia Uncovered. She does a few little trips each year, but she's super focused on communities and ensuring you get to see a real authentic side of India. The reason I chose to go with her is that I had been recommended it by a customer who said to me, you just have to go do this trip. And the reason I went to Gujarat is all of India has textiles traditions, everywhere does, but Gujarat is the area which has the most embroidery. So that's the reason I went to Gujarat. Throughout the trip, we were accompanied the whole time by Sian, Tuhina, her colleague, who's also a guide, and then when we got into Gujarat, by our guide Pravin, and our driver, Pravin, both same names and nice and confusing, and they were with us the whole time. And I cannot tell you how much having them, with the knowledge they have, the relationships they had, the communities they know, and the experience and understanding to show us what's really important, it created the most incredible trip, so informative, and I really feel like we had an experience that we couldn't have had with anyone else. And that's why I kind of want to show you what we got up to on this trip, because she only runs this trip once a year and there are only 8 places, and so the chances are not everyone is ever going to be able to do this trip, and so I wanted to kind of share with you what we got up to. Now, a few little caveats on everything. I am sharing all the knowledge based on what we kind of were told when we were visiting certain places or from my own experience. I did not go and fact check when I was told something if that was right, so if there is anything that I say which is inaccurate, like by all means please comment and I apologise for that. Secondly, I'm trying to pronounce everything as best I can, but sometimes the names of crafts and things, I am no good at pronouncing things even in English, let alone Hindi words, so forgive me for any mispronunciations, I'm trying my best. And then there are segments where I'm not going to show you certain things, such as when we go visit certain communities, because actually, you know, these aren't a tourist attraction, they're showing us their crafts and things, but there's this issue of kind of over-tourism potentially affecting the way that lots of communities live, and so we have certain areas of the trip where we didn't want to film, but I'll talk to you about what happened and hopefully that still gives you a real good context. Now the final thing is these India Diaries are going to come up in a slightly different order to how I actually experienced it. So whilst we started in Mumbai, then went to Ahmedabad, then to Bhuj, travelled around all of kind of Kutch area from there, I'm actually starting the trip for you in the context of the videos from Ahmedabad, and I am going to come back to Mumbai in the very last video. And the final thing is, I was filming these on the go. I was filming them in hotel rooms, which is usually the best place to have actually a quiet background. And the days were incredibly full on, absolutely jam-packed with so much information, but I wanted to make sure I filmed them regularly or else I'd forget aspects of the experience, aspects of the kind of people we met. And for my own sake, and for your sake, I didn't want to forget things. But inevitably what that means is sometimes I'm filming quite late at night when I'm a bit tired and slightly mad. I think there is one episode where I did it in my pyjamas. So forgive me also if I seem like a crazy person. I just wanted to make sure I really captured the emotions at that moment in time. So without further ado, I'm going to get stuck into the India Diaries, and I really hope you enjoy this series. Hi everyone, it is day 3 of my India trip, and this time this is my Ahmedabad Diaries. So we are now in Ahmedabad, which is in Gujarat, so we left Mumbai, gone to Ahmedabad, and I am in another hotel room because it's just really hard to shoot anywhere other than that. But right now we're staying in a place called the House of MG, and it's a old family home, but I mean, gorgeous old heritage house in the heart of the old town of Ahmedabad. And we are staying in our rooms that sort of have these vast spaces, but throughout the building there's all these little terraces and little areas to sit, and then on the roof there's a really beautiful restaurant serving Gujarati food, sort of thali, and so I will show a picture of that because we had dinner there last night. And I can hear right now all the beeping of horns and everything, all the tuk-tuks outside. But the moment you go into the courtyard here, they've got a fountain and you get this moment of peace. And it just sort of feels like what I had expected from India, of the kind of the buzz and the vibrancy and the kind of chaos and all the people kind of going about things outside, and then getting these little moments of sort of sanctuary within. So it's really dreamy. So I'm going to show you and talk you through what we have done over the last few days, because this city is incredible, absolutely incredible. And I know that it's off the typical beaten path in a way, and so I imagine lots of you may not get to come, and it's just such a privilege to be here. So what this video is going to be a little bit more, I'm going to tell you what we did, but I took loads of videos and loads of footage of the kind of beautiful old buildings, and so there'll be bits where I'm not talking, but I just show you the footage, and you can always skip ahead to the next bit when I explain the next thing we've been up to. But I really encourage you to sort of look at all the buildings, because there's so much inspiration from colour, from pattern motifs, all these sorts of things. And this place I absolutely love. So let me tell you what happened and how we got here. Basically, we left Mumbai yesterday morning. We were up super early, went to the airport, and we caught a flight to Ahmedabad. And we ended up getting here at about 1 o'clock, having lunch, and they've got a courtyard kind of restaurant downstairs which serves sort of more like Indian snack food. And then actually, because we had got up so early, we'd had such a full-on time in Mumbai, we had the afternoon just to rest, which was ideal, because I sort of found a really secluded spot with a swing seat. And as much as I was trying very hard not to work at all on this trip, I did have some work to do, and so it ended up being perfect timing, because I was able to sort of find myself a secluded spot and sit on the swing seat and write surveys for all our makerspace stuff. Everything going on in the makerspace, stuff just had to happen. So, and then last night we went up to the restaurant at the top of the building and had a thali kind of overlooking the city. Now, one of the things that was really nice that happened during the day is at about sort of 4:30, when I sat on the swing seat, a man came along and he said, by the way, if you are interested, you can join. They're doing a high tea today with one of the members of the family who sort of once this was their family home, generation after generation. It's no longer their family home, but one of the members of the family. And so my mum, my sister, me, and another woman, Christine, from our group, went up thinking it would just be, like kind of just some tea and a bit of a spread of a few things. But actually, when we got up there, the woman of the house was there, and she sat with us and she talked us through the whole history of the place. And then they brought out all different Indian snacks and different foods, and she talked us through how to eat them, why we eat them, what you do. And it was a really sort of intimate and very welcoming kind of moment in Ahmedabad, and to get like the perspective of someone whose family history has changed so much through the evolution of the city, from sort of major textile trading destination to the city it is today. So yesterday was really calm, relaxed. Today was mad. Today we got up early and we left at 8 a.m. and we did a mix of a tuk-tuk and walking tour of the old city of Ahmedabad. And what we wanted to do was sort of get up and see the city get up and wake up. And so we all went out on tuk-tuks and sort of like racing down the streets against one another. And first we headed to visit a Hindu temple, a very beautiful Hindu temple. And it was the time of sort of morning prayers, and whilst we were there, you could see all the monks. There were different sections for the monks and the nuns, and the monks were all praying. But then also there was this amazing moment where the head nun came out in order to pray. But because she cannot be seen by any men and anyone outside of the women of the community, or women who go into the women's area to pray, she came out in this entire sort of shroud of kind of beautiful coloured cloths, and it was such quite ethereal at the moment. I didn't film it because it sort of felt inappropriate to film that, but what I have got is loads of images and videos from the temple itself, and you'll see the carved columns and all the painting, and it's sort of not what I expected. And I have been to Rajasthan before, but when I was about 16, too young to properly appreciate things, but this feels, the temples feel very different to there. So we were there, and then we went and walked through the old town, and it is absolutely beautiful. The buildings, because they used to be such a big trading city, and some of these buildings are sort of 400, 500 years old, and they're wooden carved out of teak, then painted. And I'll just, show you these images because you can see this sort of faded grandeur. And as an area of the city, it was actually still really populated until COVID. And then when COVID hit and people had to isolate, it became very challenging because you'll see these very narrow streets and families living incredibly close to each other. So quite sadly, when COVID hit, a load of families moved out and families haven't moved back in again. So they're saying there's a slight kind of concern in Ahmedabad about what will happen and who maintains these kind of the old town now that families aren't necessarily living in the properties anymore. But walking through the streets, and again, what I have experienced the whole time being here so far is just everyone is so incredibly friendly. The people just want to welcome you. They want to know where you're from. They want to kind of share their city. They want you to come in and have a cup of tea with them. It's sort of everyone has been so welcoming in a way that I've never really experienced travelling to anywhere else, and certainly makes me rethink quite how we treat tourists in the UK. So we wandered through there, and then throughout there were kind of other temples we went in to visit. There's this footage here from the outside of a Jain temple. I was amazed because the Jain community, I kind of always, in my head, maybe quite naively, I'd always thought the Jain temples would be incredibly simple because there's that sort of pared back way of life, never kill anything. The very orthodox Jains, would sweep the paths before they walk so as to not sort of step on a fly or anything. Don't eat onions, don't eat roots, anything that's a root, that's a life form. And so I'd kind of thought the temples would almost have like that simplicity, but we couldn't film inside this temple. And so maybe Google and see if you can see some interiors of Jain temples, because it is insane inside. It is so bling that everything was covered in these sort of sparkly tiles and sort of sparkly mosaics, and it is sort of absolutely incredible, so unexpected for me, naively, because I just didn't know, and I would love if there's a way for you to kind of be able to see what these look like, and if I see anything else along the way that sort of looks like the interior of a Jain temple, I'll be sure to kind of video that so you get to see, because it was amazing. But definitely Google it and see if you can find anywhere the kind of interiors, because I think you'll find it super inspiring for it's this sort of vibrant, bright, intense, mirrored kind of temples inside. So we did that, and then we were getting back on tuk-tuks throughout. We went to go visit the most incredible mosque, and it's enormous courtyard. And then towards the back, it had the main kind of covered prayer area, which was colonnaded. And what was really interesting about it is it's not like any Islamic architecture I've seen before, because there were depictions of kind of life forms. There was no depictions of people, but there were depictions of trees, and there were depictions of some animals on the carving. And they said the reason was it's in Ahmedabad. It was the first mosque, and when they built the mosque, and when every single bit of it was carved by kind of local craftsmen who had never seen Islamic architecture. So when they were carving, they based their carvings on the Jain temples, on the Hindu temples, on the kind of the Buddhist temples, and so you get trees of life, which are far more kind of typical sort of Hindu symbol. You get all these different symbols within the mosque, and I thought that was really, just shows the multicultural background of a city like this, and of India in general, the kind of the vast array of different religions and how they all kind of go alongside each other. That was the first bit in the morning, going to do this full kind of tour of Ahmedabad and really get to grips with it. Then after that, we went and we met our bus driver Pravin, and our guide is also, who we're with for the next kind of 10 days, is also called Pravin, and he's very knowledgeable, and afterwards we all got then on the proper bus and we went to go visit a paper making factory. Now I forget, we also did stop for chai, which we've been doing lots along the way, kind of refreshing ourselves and having some chai, and we stopped in a place which is called Lucky's, and it was built on the site where they had previously had, just on the outskirts of like the castle of the city, which is now gone, but there were tombs that were there around the castle, and those tombs are 500 years old, but they built the cafe on the site, and so they have ended up inside the cafe sort of fencing around the tombs, protecting the tombs, but literally putting the tables and things next to them, around them. They're all inside. And so it's quite a surreal place to be in, because you're sort of all sat in and amongst these tombs. So it was a kind of real experience seeing that. So then we went out to the paper factory, and what was quite funny is our guide Tuhina, one of the guides we were with all the time, she had been saying that they weren't quite sure what to expect. We were going to basically see them making handmade paper from waste cottons at a place which makes cotton spinning wheels, and it's kind of right by Gandhi's ashram. So it was kind of they make the sort of spinning wheels there and then use the leftover cotton to make paper. Now she said it's typical in India that people will sort of underplay things when they're happening, and so she had heard beforehand there might be some disruption because they're doing a bit of renovation work to where they make the paper, and so we weren't totally sure what to expect. And it was quite funny because when we did arrive there, the renovation was that the entire building had been knocked down, so there was nothing there for us to see, but the friendliest people. So we went to go look at all the spinning wheel production and meet the men who were making the spinning wheels and making them in the various different forms still, and that's for spinning cotton, and it's still very much part of the kind of a religious practice, making cotton. So we went to go see the spinning wheels, and then Sian, the amazing Sian we're with, she noticed they had a sort of textile warehouse because they use the cotton that they spin there to make khadi cotton, which is you may have heard of it if you've kind of into textiles, but khadi cotton is sort of a thick-ish cotton that is used in dressmaking, it's beautiful fabric. It's a really lovely fabric to use, like generally plain colours. So she'd noticed that there was the warehouse for the cotton in addition to kind of the finished paper, and so she said, well, can we go have a look in there, because we can't see the paper making process. And went in, and oh my word, it was amazing. These sort of massive shelves filled with both the khadi cottons, then prints, different ICATs, different types of print, and then at the back I found this section with Kutch embroidery, and basically what they do is they send the khadi cotton off to Kutch communities and then ask them just to embellish it, and it's all parts, to build them up, things, inventory to sell, and there were some beautiful pieces, and it was one of those real kind of moments that I'm sure we all have if you're shopping and you're with a group, where you sort of suddenly you find yourself a bit elbows out and panicking slightly about what you were going to get. But I got this most incredible, I'll show you but absolutely it's sort of enormous, vast Kutch embroidered, that's just half of it, it's a double sort of bedsheet size, so got this beautiful Kutch embroidered cloth, and then a cushion cover, and basically broke that fear of was I going to be able to come home with any textiles, because I certainly was going to be able to. And so we saw all of those, and we all spent quite a lot of time there, and it was really fun, and the people were so lovely. And then from there we went to go visit Gandhi's ashram and go kind of see it's where Gandhi lived from 1917 to 1930, Gandhi and his wife. And then it was on the banks of the river, and then a load of the kind of Gandhi's followers all lived around as well, and it's where loads of his politically kind of meetings happened. And then he left there in 1930 and said he wouldn't come back to the ashram until India was free, and actually he never ended up being able to come back. So it was kind of really interesting to be able to visit that cultural site and to learn a bit more about the history, because my sort of knowledge is not good enough. And so just actually learning about it from Pravin was really, really good. So we did that, then went for lunch. So you can see, busy day. And then after lunch, we did the best thing ever, where we went to go visit a family who are part of what they call the Chitara community. And I'm going to butcher how you say this, so I'm just going to read it. But basically, they make this textile called Matani Pachedi. And it's a traditional form of fabric painting where basically they use a sort of iron rust liquid onto a cotton to create these designs. And I'm going to show you, you'll see loads of pictures, but we met the 8th generation. We met Kitri Chitara, and he is the 8th generation, plus his father was there, who's the 7th generation. Then he also had his children there, a little girl and a little boy, and they're the 9th generation. But in addition, they have almost lived in a village within the city of all the family living together, and this community practice this textile printing method, and they are keeping the tradition alive, but they're not sort of doing it in a small way. Kitri Chitara has travelled all over the world teaching and sharing his knowledge of this craft. So he has taught in places like, he's gone everywhere from sort of the Netherlands to New York to kind of Southeast Asia. He has taught all over the world this craft. So he's a true master craftsman. He's got his father and his grandfather both had kind of received the highest possible craftsman accolades in India. And so you're not meeting someone who's sort of who needs you in a way, because he is very much recognised in his own right. But to see the environment that he works in, to meet his family, was to then also get him to show us how to do it, to have a go ourselves. It was very hard, and I wished I'd thought more about what I was going to do. But to have him, it was so moving. And at the end, I bought this lovely piece, which I'll frame up, and I'm sure I'll show you at some point once I've got it framed at home. But then had a picture of him with his family holding the piece, and to feel like you have that memory of that place and those people and that gorgeous family and the master craftsmanship of this technique they use was really quite emotional experience. These pieces I would never have appreciated properly before, but seeing how he does it, and at the moment he had a very large piece he was working on, and he had been, the bit we could see had been 3 months worth of work. His niece was training up, and she said in about 6 years she would probably be ready to do this. She would be kind of able to produce her own pieces. At the moment she'd be more kind of filling in colours and areas on other designs. She said it would probably be another 6 years before she was ready, and she had already done 5 years of kind of fine art training at the art university in Ahmedabad, and then she'd also been kind of apprenticing for years. So it shows the skill level required to produce these pieces, which I think I would never have fully appreciated if I hadn't actually got to experience that. So that was incredible. And then we've just come back to the hotel now. We are having dinner here again up on the roof, and which will be nice and relaxing, although I'm not sure we could eat much more. And then tomorrow we're setting out, we're leaving Ahmedabad, and I will then tell you all about what's happening in the next video diaries. But this is where we're up to, and having an amazing trip. So I'll see you in the next diary. Bye!